This is the Atlanta metro area, 8,376 square miles, physically larger than many U.S. states by developed footprint. It has firmly established itself as the undisputed powerhouse of the South, with nearly 6 million people calling the region home. But while Atlanta dominates headlines, something far larger is taking shape across the Piedmont. The borders that once separated metros like Atlanta, Charlotte, and Raleigh are vanishing. From Atlanta to Charlotte, the clear transition from city to countryside to city has disappeared, replaced by continuous development. What was once distinct southern metros is now fusing into a single interlocking system that contains more than 22 million people and produces an economic output comparable to some of the world's largest national economies. So, what force is powerful enough to make distinct cities merge across state lines? And can this emerging colossus rival the dominance of the Northeast? When you drive along Interstate 85 from Atlanta toward Charlotte, there's a moment where you stop being able to tell when one metro area ends and another begins. The gas stations and distribution centers and office parks just keep coming, mile after mile, until you realize the gap has closed. The dozens of counties that Interstate 85 passes through now account for $543 billion in gross regional product, representing roughly 43% of all economic activity in Georgia and the Carolinas combined. This transformation has a name. Demographers call it the Piedmont Atlantic Megaregion, though some have started using the nickname Charlanta. The region follows two main highways, Interstate 85 and Interstate 20, creating a continuous swath that connects Birmingham, Atlanta, Greenville, Spartanburg, Charlotte, Greensboro, and Raleigh into one massive system. But what makes this different from regular sprawl is that each of these cities is growing into a genuine powerhouse. Charlotte has become the United States' second largest banking center, behind only New York. Raleigh and Durham have emerged as one of the Southeast's strongest tech talent hubs. The Research Triangle area has one of the most educated populations in the country, with 53.3% of adults holding a bachelor's degree or higher compared to a national average of 35%. While major hubs like New York and Chicago are losing young educated workers, Raleigh has seen its population of degree-holding 30-somethings grow by nearly 25% over just 5 years. So this isn't one dominant city absorbing everything around it. Atlanta remains the anchor, but the other cities are developing specialized roles within a larger system, which raises the question, what's actually stitching these cities together? The answer is written across the landscape in massive steel and concrete. Interstate 85 is experiencing a historic expansion in logistics, with 40 million square feet of industrial space currently under construction. That represents about 10% of all industrial construction happening anywhere in the United States right now, concentrated along a single highway. The size of these buildings indicates a structural shift. In the 1990s, the average industrial structure along this corridor measured around 50,000 square feet. Today, the average has grown to over 320,000 square feet. These warehouses are massive distribution hubs designed to serve the entire Southeast, anchored by Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, which generates $51.5 billion for the metro region and supports 448,000 jobs. Atlanta has even started calling itself Supply Chain City. This represents a fundamental shift in what the Southeast's economy actually does. The I-85 corridor used to be dominated by furniture manufacturing and textile mills. But since 1990, financial activities employment in North Carolina has increased by 89%, while traditional manufacturing declined. The old factory buildings have been replaced by professional services, high-tech industries, and enormous logistics centers that move products rather than make them. What's driving this is e-commerce. The explosion in online shopping has created insatiable demand for distribution space near major population centers. The Piedmont Atlantic Megaregion offers something unique: a massive consumer market of 22 million people connected by highways to the rest of the country, anchored by the world's busiest airport. But there's a problem. The very infrastructure connecting these cities is starting to buckle under the weight of all this growth. In Atlanta, congestion has reached a measurable breaking point. The average commuter in Atlanta now spends 52 extra hours stuck in traffic every single year. That congestion costs the city $3.2 billion annually in wasted time and fuel. Researchers and planners have begun describing traffic conditions as apocalyptic, and the problem extends well beyond Atlanta. The highways connecting these cities are reaching their breaking point. This creates a paradox the entire megaregion has to solve. The economic power comes from concentration across this 400-mile corridor. Companies choose to be here because they can access suppliers, customers, and employees throughout the region. But that only works if people and goods can easily move between the cities. When a drive from Charlotte to Atlanta regularly takes over 4 hours because of congestion, the whole system starts to fail. Between 2000 and 2010, Atlanta became one of the most rapidly sprawling metros in the United States, consuming 683 square miles of rural land. You might assume this happened because people wanted huge lots, but the data tells a different story. Population growth accounts for 84 to 86% of all new development in the Piedmont region, while declining density only accounts for roughly 15%. This means the sprawl is happening primarily because millions of new people are moving here. The implication is clear: the problem cannot be solved by persuading people to live smaller. By 2045, experts expect 13 million additional residents in the corridor. The existing highways simply cannot accommodate that kind of growth. The roads are already failing, and the population hasn't even doubled yet. The environmental cost is mounting too. The continuous urban corridor is creating an urban heat island effect, raising temperatures by as much as 5.4 degrees Fahrenheit compared to surrounding rural areas. The development has permanently eliminated more than 95% of the historic longleaf pine ecosystem. So, if highways can't handle the growth that's already baked in, what can? Experts have concluded there's only one realistic solution: high-speed rail. The Federal Railroad Administration is working with Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina to develop the Southeast High-Speed Rail Corridor, connecting Washington, D.C. to Atlanta. The key section runs between Charlotte and Atlanta, and they have selected the Greenfield Corridor alternative as the preferred route. This would be a 274-mile dedicated passenger rail line connecting Charlotte to Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. The trains would run on electricity and reach speeds up to 220 miles per hour, cutting travel time between Charlotte and Atlanta to just over 2 hours. That's less than half the time it currently takes to drive when you account for traffic. By 2050, the system is projected to attract over 6 million riders annually and divert 29% of all trips from highways to rail. The promise is compelling. High-speed rail would create a genuine alternative to driving, one that's faster, more reliable, and capable of handling the population growth the region expects. Someone could live in Charlotte and commute to Atlanta for important meetings. Companies could treat the entire corridor as a single labor market. But there's a significant obstacle. The project would cost multiple billions of dollars to construct, and right now there is no dedicated state or federal funding available. The states involved would need to cooperate on funding, governance, and operations for a rail system that crosses state lines and serves a region that doesn't really have a unified identity yet. These cities have traditionally seen themselves as competitors, not partners, which points to a deeper problem. The infrastructure challenge is really a coordination challenge. The Piedmont Atlantic Megaregion faces something the Northeast Corridor solved decades ago. How do you govern a region that crosses state boundaries and includes dozens of separate city and county governments? Right now, the answer is that you mostly don't. Each city pursues its own interests, builds its own infrastructure, and competes with its neighbors for businesses and residents. This fragmentation has clear, measurable consequences. Regional water supplies are managed separately, even though the cities draw from connected watersheds. Transportation systems don't coordinate across state lines. Economic development agencies compete against each other to attract the same companies. There's no unified approach to preserving open spaces that provide environmental value to the entire region. The challenge is that the megaregion's economic power depends on integration, but the political structure is designed for separation. Companies already treat this as one large market, moving goods and workers across the entire 400-mile corridor. But governments still operate as if Charlotte, Atlanta, and Raleigh are distant cities with separate destinies. The Research Triangle offers a glimpse of what cooperation can accomplish. Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill worked together to create Research Triangle Park, which became one of the most successful research centers in the country. That cooperation attracted major tech companies and research institutions. But scaling that coordination across multiple states and a 400-mile corridor is exponentially harder. Without some form of regional coordination, the high-speed rail project and other infrastructure will remain stuck in planning. But then we have a bigger question. Even if this region solves its internal challenges, can it compete with the most established megaregion in America? The Northeast Corridor, stretching from Boston through New York to Washington, D.C., is the nation's oldest urban megalopolis. It has functioning regional rail, coordinated infrastructure, and a centuries-old identity as a unified region. The Piedmont is now its fastest-growing challenger. The economic influence of the Piedmont Corridor captures over 80% of all Fortune 500 revenue within Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. That represents a fundamental shift in American economic geography, with the Sun Belt rising to challenge traditional northern hubs. The comparison is whether the Southeast can create the kind of integrated megaregion the Northeast has had for generations. The Northeast works because the cities complement each other. Boston specializes in education and biotechnology. New York dominates finance and media. Washington handles government and policy. The cities are connected by rail and coordinated infrastructure that makes the whole region function as a single economic unit. The Piedmont has the pieces for a similar arrangement. Atlanta is the logistics and transportation hub. Charlotte handles finance. Raleigh and Durham specialize in research and technology. Greenville and Spartanburg anchor advanced manufacturing. The specialization is already happening naturally as companies and workers sort themselves into these cities based on their strengths. What's missing is the infrastructure and governance that would allow these specializations to reinforce each other. Right now, Charlotte's financial sector and Raleigh's tech industry exist somewhat independently. With better connections, they could function the way New York's finance and Boston's technology do, feeding talent and capital back and forth in a way that makes both stronger. This race matters because megaregions are becoming the key organizing units of the global economy. The question for the Piedmont isn't whether it will continue growing. The growth is already baked in. The question is whether it can transform that growth into genuine integration. The Piedmont Atlantic Megaregion is no longer an abstract concept. It's a physical reality taking shape across 400 miles of the Southeast. More than 22 million people already live within its boundaries, and millions more are coming. The highways are filling with continuous development, and the economic connections between Atlanta, Charlotte, and Raleigh are deepening every year. What remains uncertain is whether this emerging urban giant will successfully integrate or simply sprawl into an ungovernable mess. The infrastructure challenges are mounting as traffic reaches apocalyptic levels. The environmental costs are accumulating as development consumes rural land and raises regional temperatures. The governance gap persists as separate cities and states struggle to coordinate across boundaries that are increasingly meaningless to the businesses and workers who move through the region daily. High-speed rail offers a potential path forward, but only if the states involved can move beyond traditional competition and fund a project that serves the region as a whole. Growth is inevitable. Whether the region can manage that growth effectively remains uncertain.